Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Luminous Human School. I'm Christy Sandino, and I'm here with Lindsay Davis.
Hello.
And today, our inspiration really feels like it's coming from this space of the new year, continuing into January. And I feel like regardless of when you're listening to this, whatever time of the year, we have a lot of practices and guidance we want to share about tuning into our internal cues and our internal rhythm. So the initial inspiration for today's episode is to be the seed. The little seed.
Yes.
Because especially in January, as the year turns over, there just is all this external pressure to find what you need to change about yourself and to almost like instantaneously be changing it or be changed at the same moment you're deciding what it is you want to change. Like it almost is like wanting to compress this process all into one thing, like new year, new me. And
It's overwhelming.
it's super overwhelming.
I'm feeling it. Like just being on social media right now, there's so much bombarding my awareness with programs and challenges and whatever. I'm just like, okay, I need to step away. I'm getting too much. It's too much.
Yeah. So in that theme, be the seed. Like, what does a seed do? So it rests, it soaks up nutrients, and it's an internal process. Like the pod is still closed on the seed, it's within. And as it's resting and soaking up the nutrients, tuned within, at the right moment, at this kind of moment of divine inspiration, of natural growth, that I think, our body knows, our body understands, and there's a place in our heart where we're connected to our higher good and our spirit, that growth can come from. And so that growth happens in a moment as an expression of our true nature. So there's no forces in the earth really that are coming from outside the seed saying, do it now, now. Like this day has come. It's just being held by the earth, by the rain that's soaking in, and letting its own natural rhythm break the pod open and grow at its own pace.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could imagine like an outside world that could send messages to a seed saying, do it now, the calendar day turned, today's the day, or this month is the month. I could just feel like these little seeds like trying to force their pods open, force these little green shoots to grow. Like, why aren't you growing yet? Oh my gosh, something's wrong. Like, grow. And if it's not in their natural rhythm, it's too early for them, it can it would hurt their potential for their full growth.
Mhm.
And maybe they would even grow in the wrong direction because they're not in their own natural rhythm. They don't have a connection to an inner compass guiding them forward. So if the messages are only coming externally, how do you know that you're growing in alignment with your inner compass?
Mhm.
So does this strike a chord?
It has with me.
Because there is a lot of external pressure as the year turns that has that do it now energy.
Yeah, there's so much of that, just like so many people saying like, "Oh, I got to get back on track and I got to, do this next thing and now I'm going to reach my goals." And all of that's great to have that beautiful ambition that you want to achieve, but it can feel like a lot. It can feel like a lot of pressure and it can feel really stressful. And just like you're saying, it can kind of, potentially force you to move in a direction that maybe you're not ready for yet, like that seed that's being forced to open and could be growing in the wrong direction because there's this force put on it saying like you have to open now, and now maybe it's going down to the earth instead of up to bloom. And it's like, how can we tune into what we really need? And maybe that is to just slow down and tune out the external things right now, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. So, especially here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're still in the center of winter. And even if you live somewhere sunny, like Lindsay and I both live in
Thank God.
Florida and California, respectively. So, there actually it's been raining here for a few days, but there is sun right now. But it's still winter, and there's still like a rhythm of winter that I can feel in my body.
Oh, I do too, even
Um,
in Florida, for sure.
yeah. So our bodies do tune to the rhythms of nature in the places where we live.
Mhm.
It's very natural. And so it's very natural right now in the Northern Hemisphere to be tuned inwards as opposed to outwards.
Mhm.
So that doesn't mean don't do anything, but it might mean that right now it feels a little bit more natural to dream, to plan, to just journal, like feel what really feels aligned in your body, to ask like powerful questions.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, Christy and I were talking earlier as we were discussing this topic, and I needed to hear this message so much today because I started to get into a place where I was feeling that sort of frenzy in my mind of just being like, figure it out now. You have to have the solution. You have to be at the end now. Like, and perhaps some of that was coming from that collective external pressure that is happening to get on a program, do a challenge. And like I need that time too to slow down and actually create a plan for what wants to blossom. It's like it's great that I have that desire to blossom into something, to create something, because I have a huge desire to create a lot of things right now, but sometimes my mind can just be like too much, going a little crazy and feeling like it all has to be done right now, and that's not possible. So with this, what you were speaking about at the beginning is just something I truly needed to remind myself that I can just sit and journal and create that plan and think about what is the next most aligned step for me that would help me blossom in the springtime or whenever that wants to happen. But those first steps have to happen, and sometimes that is slowing down and being and going inward
Yeah,
for
and you can only really know that by tuning into yourself.
oh yeah.
So maybe January is like your perfect time to start taking action, and this time of year just really works for you.
Hmm.
For somebody else, it might be springtime. For somebody else, it might be their birthday, because birthdays are actually like our own personal New Year's. So
Hmm.
that can be a really good time to jump into inspired action. But whenever those times are, what you want to do is precede them with this time of nourishment, because action takes energy. So we want to take action from a really truly rested, nourished place of strength. So a lot of times, so going back to the January thing, we jump into this action after a month of not enough rest, a lot of activity, late nights, holiday parties, and not eating the best food. So that might not lead you into a really super nourished state
So
where
true.
you're setting yourself up to actually be able to accomplish resolutions.
Yeah, because it's sort of that like 0 to 100 energy in a way. For a lot of people, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna like take time off from all the things, I'm gonna relax, and then come January 1, I gotta do all the things. Like, that's a lot to take on. And
Yeah.
you just made me think too something about um you each individual person might notice that there's certain times in the year that they do have more energy, or they notice a little bit more creativity coming in, or inspiration or motivation. And I say this because I've like thinking about past years, I noticed that in the springtime I do tend to have a lot more creativity. I tend to want to journal a lot more and write more and feel like inspirations are just flowing into me. And I hadn't really thought about that until we started talking about this, that wow, springtime really is like this creative space for me of blooming and new things happening. And perhaps these next couple months of winter, it's like, well, what do I need to truly nourish and nurture that space that I know tends to happen for me? So it's, tuning into your personal rhythms and cycles of energy, motivation, creativity, and maybe seeing if there is a pattern for you in the past years of like how that's flowed for you, and see what you can work with within those cycles as well.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you might just notice that as you, there might be like a season where you say, like, oh, I love summer, I love spring. And so if you notice when you say things like that, that can also lead you to those kinds of cues of
Mhm.
when maybe you feel more energy, or when you feel like turning in. Like, I know when it rains, if it somehow divinely aligns with a day when I have off and I can curl up with a blanket and a book, that is literally one of my favorite things, is just to let the rain take me into a really cozy inward state.
So nice.
So starting, like Lindsay said, just making notes for yourself of what feels, what flows for you, what
Yeah.
like your natural rhythm, like you're starting to like listen to your body and your spirit's natural rhythm.
Yeah, and even with so much happening right now, like you were saying, kind of like that collective energy of go get it. take some time to sit with yourself and ask, like, what do I need? Is this sort of go get it energy like gonna really nourish me? Maybe it does, but it's okay if it doesn't. It's okay if you're like not going for some New Year's resolution or jumping on a challenge or a course or whatever. I think sometimes we can feel like, oh, well, everybody else is like doing these things and I'm not. And is that okay? Yes, that is okay. Just give yourself permission to give yourself what you need, even if it looks different than the majority of people you might be seeing on social media or your friends or your
Yeah.
family.
Yeah, because the other thing that can happen is when you don't give yourself some really nice setup time to start a new practice, when you set a goal, a resolution, an intention, whatever language feels good to you, it's nice to have a little bit of like an on-ramping to that as opposed to like a really quick jump,
Mm,
because that on-ramping, or like I was saying before, like that time of nourishment sets you up for success.
yeah.
So when you jump in to a goal or a resolution without having like set a schedule for it or thought about how you want to accomplish it, what are your rhythms for this goal, that's kind of one of the main reasons why New Year's resolutions tend to drop off in about 3 to 6 weeks, because there's been no nourishment towards the action. And
Mhm.
so it can give you an impression that you tried it and you failed and you couldn't do it. So you can end up with a story in your head of like, I'm not good at this, I can't do it, I tried and failed, and make you a little bit less likely to try it again when it may have been something that is really aligned for you. And you might have just needed a little bit more time to nourish yourself and nourish the idea before the physical action steps.
Yeah. And you made me think too that um, if it's not going as planned, or you run out of the motivation or the fuel towards it, um like you were saying, it's not necessarily failure, but what if that is more of that time to reassess and sit and nourish before you begin again? And motivation is an interesting thing. I think a lot of times we think, oh, I'm going to get started and I'm just going to be motivated forever. And like motivation ebbs and flows no matter what it is that you're working towards. So knowing that there will be those times where whatever you're doing, it might take a little bit more energy out of you to move forward with it, but think about why you're doing it and honor those times that maybe you do need to be a little bit more nourished before you ramp up again. And like that's okay. It's like nobody's really going 100% of the time. We have, that's life, right? Where there's ebbs and flows and dips and all of it. And we can honor the whole journey, and don't forget to like bring in that nourishment and that rest and that connecting in to truly see what you need in each moment.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, we just want to take the pressure off this idea, this theme that all of a sudden you need to reach for like the biggest, most spectacular, most sparkling version of yourself, goals you have for yourself, like go big, do it huge, let everybody see it. um listen to your own internal rhythms, breath, your own internal song. Um, there was, oh, this is what I was thinking of when I was thinking of this, is that when you're listening to your own internal song, like it might be a hum.
Yeah.
And if that's what wants to move through you right now, then let it be a hum, because that can be what moves you forward in a way that feels really aligned with your body and your spirit.
Hmm.
That hum might turn into a giant opera. It might just go into a nice little, like toning. But
Your anthem.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, but it will lead you forward on a path that's uniquely yours,
Yes.
which I think is really what we want to share with you today, is that whatever is uniquely yours is perfect.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be fireworks and cannons going off. So if this is your season to dream, like let yourself dream.
Yeah. Yeah. And then those fireworks can happen, those cannons can happen, those big moments can still happen. And it can happen when it's meant to for you. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just being really like nourishing, listening, as always, being kind and gentle to yourself and loving to yourself. That's always going to be a huge message that we share because it's so important.
Yeah. So trust that.
Yeah.
Trust where you are. Don't feel like, I mean, we all at times feel like we want to be where somebody else is, but it's
Yeah.
a natural thing. Comparison is a natural thing.
Yeah.
But
Let it be an inspiration rather than something that pushes you down. Like, let it show you what's possible. You know,
yes.
that's how I try to look at it, even though sometimes, I can be like, oh my gosh, I'm not there. But I'm like, wait, that person's experiencing that. That's totally possible. But it's gonna look different for me because I'm on my own path. And it could be, it'll probably be even better for me and more aligned for me because it's my path. So
Yes.
I'll use that as inspiration to keep moving forward.
Yes. You're your own seed, you're your own plant, you're your own blossom at your own time
Mm.
in your own beautiful little patch of earth.
Mm. I love that imagery. Own little unique, beautiful seed. So nurture it and let it blossom into the most beautiful plant.
Mm. So that feels like a perfect place to close.
I agree.
We would love to hear, as always, where you are in your path and
Yeah.
where you are in your personal growth. And so feel free to reach out to us anytime and let us know how this landed with you.
Yeah. Always feel free to send us a message on Instagram at Luminous Human School. It's a great place to reach us.
Yeah. So thank you for being with us today. We love you so much.
We love you so much.